going.
What does it take to sustain the circus financially in today's economy?
Are we talking circus on the road, a real circus, or Circus World?
The circus here and the circus world that you're going to show on our big circus.
Okay. Circus World is different because we are stationary and don't travel like a real circus normally would. So a lot of the things we do, we use a facility that's built on site. We don't have to erect it or go to somebody else's building. Ours are right here. We know the marketing for the area, and it helps to create a budget. When you're a non-for-profit, you kind of got small budgets, so it's important. But you also got to think about like a circus and how you market it and the acts that you book into the show and the type of programs you design with an eye to history and honoring the site, which is a National Historic Landmark site of the Ringling Brothers' original winter quarters. Truly, you've got to look at today's audiences and what's going to excite them. But then when they get here, then you can hit them a little bit more with some of the history. But you got to get them here first, so it's important to look at what's going to be exciting and thrilling, and sensational, and you have your marketing reflect that, as circuses do on the road.
So that's pretty much the mission of the circus, is to get people here.
Circus World itself, the mission of Circus World is to impart the history of the American circus and somewhat international circuses, but mostly concentrated on American circuses. And our bent, in particular, one of our focuses is the Ringling Brothers Circus, because that's started here. We have a brand new exhibit coming up this year about the Gomer Brothers. They were first cousins of the Ringlings, and they had a circus out of Baraboo as well. Yeah, so that'll be something brand new that hasn't really been touched on much.
So, what does the circus mean to Baraboo? Since this, a lot of people say that Baraboo is the heart of the Ringling Brothers because it's where they first started.
It's where it just happened that the parents were living in Baraboo when the boys were all starting their careers, their work careers, and they all did other things besides circus. It's just that they never lost this love of the circus that was instilled on them when they were little boys growing up on the banks of the Mississippi in Brigger, Iowa. And they got fascinated by the circus and started doing little amateur performances in the backyard. And Al never lost it. He actually traveled with shows to learn the business, the front end of the business, the performers end of the business, the setup and all that stuff. Learned all areas of the business and then convinced his brothers they could do it. And they did it. Yeah, it started out real small and real hokey, but they put all their money back into it, and there were so many of them that was kind of one of the keys to their success.
Yeah, so talking about how they started small and hokey, how did the circus change from when it first started to today?
Oh, world of difference.
Yeah.
One thing, a lot of the population of America was rural, so people lived in the country. They didn't have access to, you couldn't jump in a car and go and see a museum or a zoo, any of those type of big entertainments. They were landlocked. A lot of them made their living off of agriculture, and you had to be there to milk the cows and feed the chickens and plow the fields and tend to the weeds and all of that type of stuff. Plus, it just took a lot to live. I mean, they grew most of the food that they ate. They made most of the clothes they wore. So there was a lot of time just spent trying to live. So if you did have a way to get to somebody, someplace big, you probably didn't have the time to go there anyway. But into that world, the circus came. And it brought all of these wonders right to the people, right where they lived. So they could go to it. When circus came, biggest day of the year. Businesses closed, schools let out, everybody went to the circus. Yeah, it was like the social event of the year. And why not? I mean, you got to see all these exotic animals from the four corners of the earth, international circus performers doing unbelievable feats like computer-generated images today, but back then it was a circus. Yeah.
So do you think like back then was its highest point, or when do you think the circus was at its highest point?
Yeah, definitely. 1880s to 1920s. 1920s, you start to see other forms of entertainment. Movies took hold a little bit better. Radio was starting out and beginning to grow. After World War I, people moved from rural areas into the big cities. We had a lot of the country kids all coming to the big cities. They'd been influenced by their travels in World War I, and they wanted something more than just living on the farm. So that was one of the reasons why all of these things kind of worked together, and the circus remained a major force, but it wasn't anywhere near as big. It was adult entertainment at that time, from the 1880s to the 1920s, and it was the #1 form of entertainment in the country.
So since you're saying like technology kind of took away from the circus, and did the circus, especially nowadays, use any technology in it to make it greater or different acts?
Well, definitely. Here, it's on a small scale because we don't have the big bucks to spend on things. But we've got modern lighting, we've got modern sound in the venues. We do things live, which honors the past. We don't do it to recorded music, we do a live band. And we're a little, I guess you could call it low tech, because that's kind of the charm of the circus, is that the technology doesn't overtake it. Now you take a big show like Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey today, run by the Felds, they're always putting new technology into it. They have electronic gizmos, spec floats that are animated and do some really wild things, kind of taken some of the technology developed from Mardi Gras parades and the other big parades around the country and put it into the show. They have a big video screen that's in a circle, so that you can see close-ups of some of the performers while they're doing their act. So you've got, they kind of have gotten away from the three-ring circus, which was to just bombard the senses. That was the role of a three-ring circus in the day. Now they bombard it by having, you watch it on a video screen, you watch the real thing here, you watch something over here, back to that, back up to the video monitor, and they have other smaller things around the arena that all flash images and messages at you during the show. So there's multiple sensory type of things.
Cool. So is there only one act going on, one ring, or is there still 3 rings for the Barnum, Bailey, and Brothers?
Ringling, as I understand it, has kind of done away with the rings. There are certain acts that have to perform in a ring, like horses. So they may have a ring set up in the center, but there'll be things performing outside of the ring that'll happen. Clown acts and other types of performances, and of course you still have the aerial stuff. But they don't define it as much by the rings as they used to. That happened about maybe 7-8 years ago. They started moving away from the rings in the presentation and run it more like what they might do an ice show. They own the Disney on Ice shows, Ice-Capades or Ice-Capades, some of the other shows like that. So they kind of use the whole arena and don't define it by 3 rings anymore.
Cool. So how do you preserve the history of the circus?
Well, not only by Circus World Museum, but like also in the bigger shows, as in like Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey. How do they?
I think they always have. They always tip their hat to the history because they have a really rich history. Barnum and Bailey part of it goes back to the 1870s. Ringling goes back to 1884, and you see it in their costume designs. They have the skirts might be shorter, but the designs, some of the forms, harken back to stuff that was used in the 1890s. It just uses flashier fabrics, and it might even have electric lights built into it. But and the hemlines for the ladies, of course, would be much shorter today than it was back then. But it still has some of the tribute to the Victorian styles, the 1920s. You see 1940s styles coming into play. And the types of acts, they will look at what was done in the past, and then they will hire an act that's like that, but there might be a twist to it. They might do something a little bit different than was done in the past.
Cool.
But they do honor the traditions of the circus. A lot. You see a lot of the shows will do that.
Cool. Where do you see the circus in the future?
That's a hard question to say because you never know what the circus right now is not leading; it's reacting to. During the golden era, which was a pretty good 50-year run, they kind of led the way, and everybody followed after them. In the way that they advertised, advertising was black and white, not color, and circus insisted on color. Very graphic, exciting images, and modern advertising followed suit after that. So did movie posters and things like that. The dog got their start with circus posters, advertising posters. But it's anybody's guess. Certainly shows, theatrical type circuses like Cirque du Soleil have made a big impact on the circus industry. And there are some shows that are trying to do a little bit lesser version, but in the same vein as a Cirque du Soleil, where it's kind of a theatrical circus.
Right.
Not much for the animals, but a lot of the acrobatics, and transfers into a storyline that you can tell in a stage production. I think to some extent there will always be a place for the traditional circus. It's very, very big in Europe. It's never gone away. It's become a bona fide art form in Europe. And I keep my fingers crossed that that is going to transfer over to America as well. Yeah.
Do you think, even though the circus isn't as well known as it was back when you said it in its high point in like the 1920s, 1980s, do you still think children should be educated with the history of the circus?
Oh yeah, because you can learn from anything that happened in the past. You learn the good and the bad, and that influences how you move ahead in life. And I think circus has a lot of very valuable lessons, even today, that can be learned.
Cool.
Do you think people in Baraboo know a lot about the history? Or
I think they're a little more aware of it than most people are, because it's a real important part of our heritage. And Baraboo people, as a rule, tend to be very proud of that heritage.
Should be.
And it was a very big part of Baraboo. When the circus left, when the Ringling Show left, it was the same time the Gomor brothers closed their circus the same year, and 20% of the population of Baraboo left. And it wasn't that everybody worked for the circus, but those other people made their living off the fact the circus was here. They could sell goods to the circus, and when that went away, they had no reason to. They couldn't keep the business going. So we lost 20% of our population.
Wow.
It was like
Important.
it was like a pre-depression depression. Yeah, the economy.
They were already in Great Depression.
Yeah, and then the 30s came along and again. Yeah.
I didn't know it was that important. Do you have any more questions?
I think we covered everything.
You did.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You betcha.
Oh, perfect.
I want to take a picture.